Let us then look at environmental pollution. What is environmental pollution? It is the introduction of substance by man into the environment liable to cause hazard to human health or harm to living resources or amenities. You can observe around and you see how people are polluting the environment by way of introducing new substances into the environment. It could be using of DDT to catch fish, using of pesticides and weedicides for our farming purposes, introducing waste from industries onto the environment or water bodies. When you do that, when these poisonous things go beyond the carrying capacity of that natural environment, you end up polluting it. And that is what we call environmental pollution. When you introduce a substance or that is liable to cause hazard, that is liable to cause destruction to the environment and human health, that is environmental pollution. In simple terms, it is actually something in the place at the wrong time and of the wrong quantity. And so when you introduce something into a place at the wrong time and of the wrong quantity, it can be classified as environmental pollution. Types of pollution. There are three main types of pollution. We have water pollution, atmospheric or air pollution, and lastly, soil or land degradation. Try not to say soil pollution or land pollution. Rather say land degradation. I'll explain to you why. But for now, let us look at water pollution or pollution of the hydrosphere. What is water pollution? It is the release of harmful materials into the water body such that the water becomes impure for living organisms. The water becomes harmful to humans and animals. When you pollute the environment, when you introduce certain kind of substance, certain kind of poisonous substance into the water bodies, it becomes impure for living organisms. When you drink as a human being, you will die. When animals drink, they will die. When trees use or absorb, they will die. And so that is water pollution. The water becomes harmful to humans and animals and trees. Let us look at the characteristics of water. That when you pollute or you pollute the water and it deviates from these characteristics, then the water is said to be impure. Every good water is liquid. So when the water moves from the liquid state to semi-liquid or semi-solid or solid, then it is not water. Bear in mind that water is liquid. The average temperature of water is 4 degrees Celsius. So quality water, the average temperature is 4 degrees. So when it is beyond 4 or less than 4, then you can have good reason to say that the water is polluted. The density of a good water is 1 gram when pure. Water is colorless. Pure water should be tasteless. So when the water has taste, then it means the water is not pure. Pure water is odorless. These are the characteristics of water. So when you get water and you send it to lab and the lab test deviates from these characteristics, then you can say the water is polluted. Now let us look at causes of water pollution. Water can be polluted in several ways. One of such is oil leakage. Spillage or leakage and washing of tankers at sea into water bodies is a major cause of water pollution. The oil is poisonous to some living things, and when you pour them into the water bodies, the oil will clog the breathing passages of other living organisms. Sometimes when it even gets on birds' feathers, it prevents the birds from swimming or flying. So this is how oil leakage pollutes water bodies. You can also talk of poor waste disposal. The release of waste, being domestic or industrial, from domestic and industrial sources into water bodies pollute water bodies. In Ghana here, always people talk about the situation of our beaches, where people literally attend nature's call at the beaches, when people literally throw solid waste into the sea or into other several water bodies, polluting them. When people dump sewage into water bodies, when you do that, you end up polluting it. So one of the causes of water pollution is poor waste disposal. Another causes of water pollution in Ghana and by extension globally is unregulated mining activities. The mining industry use acid, mercury and other poisonous chemicals in their work processes. And when these things happen, when you introduce mercury, acid and other things, other chemicals into water bodies, you end up polluting it. And that is why most of our water bodies in Ghana now are polluted. To talk of Pra and Cobra or Fen, some of these streams are even near extinction, all because of unregulated mining activities. Another cause of water pollution is bad fishing methods. Where in Ghana here, fishermen use poisonous chemicals like DDT and dynamite in fishing, and these chemicals pollute the water bodies. Another example that we can talk about is the bad agricultural practices. When pesticides, fertilizers are not properly used, rainwater may wash them away into rivers, lakes, among others. And when these substances are introduced to these water bodies, they are polluted. Now, effect of water pollution. When we pollute water, what are some of the effects? One, we end up increasing water temperature, so increase in water temperature. Hot water from power stations and boilers may raise the temperature for the recipient water bodies, causing damage to aquatic life. When industries after production go and dump their hot water into water bodies, the temperatures are increased, and when the temperature of the water is increased, the fishes in the water body may die because they may not be able to adapt to the temperature or the prevailing temperature. One of the effects is also that it may foul recreational facilities. When you pollute water bodies, you foul recreational facilities. Our beaches are not well attended to like other beaches globally or in the developed countries, because you go to our beaches and people have attended nature's call. There, people throw rubbishes and garbages along the beaches, and you see that these recreational facilities are foul smell, among several other things, and because of that, people are not able to use the beaches. Also understand that oil spillage and waste interfere with recreational activities, which is so serious. Another effect is that pollution reduces oxygen in water. When the poisonous chemicals reach the water bodies in large quantities, oxygen may be reduced for the aquatic living organisms. Understand that. It may lead to impure drinking water. Pollution may lead to impure drinking water. Untreated sewage may contain germs which can cause diseases such as cholera and typhoid. Imagine that you are drinking water from a source which has been contaminated with the feces of someone. Definitely you are going to get typhoid or cholera. Pollution may also destroy aquatic life. Oil that enters the sea and other water bodies may kill aquatic animals, fishes, hippopotamus, and all other animals in the water bodies may be harmed. Solution to water pollution. How can we solve water pollution? How can we solve water pollution? 1. Intensive public education on the dangers of water pollution. Research has shown that public education is one of the best ways in solving societal problems. Most of the people engaged in this water pollution thing are one way or the other illiterate, or to use the right word, ignorant of the dangers of what they are, the things they are doing. And so if we want to solve the problem, then it will be better we go to them, educate them on the dangers of their activities or of the pollution of the water. Another one way of solving water pollution is strengthening the legal framework to combat those who commit those crimes. If you want to solve societal problem, solve it through rigid legal framework. When there is law banning people from doing certain things, they will refrain from it. So strengthening legal framework is one way of solving water pollution. Another solution is that state institutions such as Environmental Protection Agency must act to protect the water bodies. We have state institutions such as Environmental Protection Agency that are legally mandated to solve environmental problems. And so there should be that political will, that power to make sure that these institutions are working effectively to solve environmental problems. Another environmental degradation form of environmental degradation is air pollution or atmospheric pollution. Therefore, what is it? Based on the knowledge acquired from water pollution, I want you to think through by trying to define air pollution. Air pollution can therefore be defined as the release of poisonous substances into the atmosphere or in the air. These poisonous gases make the air we breathe impure. Imagine you find yourself in an environment which has been tempered with some kind of gas. You will feel uncomfortable. And so we say that air pollution is the release of poisonous substance into the atmosphere or in the air such that it affects the survival of living organisms. When this happens, the air that we breathe may contain particles which are dangerous to human life or human health. Let's understand that the principal gas pollutants in the air are sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, oxides of nitrogen, and hydrocarbons. All these are poisonous gases. When emitted into the atmosphere, will pollute the atmosphere. Now, causes of air pollution. 1. Volcanic eruption. This is a concept that we will treat going forward. Anytime volcanic eruption occurs, because it emits some kind of dust into the atmosphere and some kind of gases into the atmosphere, volcanic eruption pollute the atmosphere. Example of such gases that volcanic eruption may emit into the atmosphere is sulfur dioxide. We should not also forget that accidental fires in forests and grasslands also pollute the atmosphere. Imagine a forest burns. Through the burning, some gases are emitted into the atmosphere. When you burn something in your environment, you emit some gases into the atmosphere. So accidental fires in forests and grasslands also contribute to environmental pollution. Industrial activities. The factories which change raw materials to finished goods release a lot of poisonous gases into the atmosphere. Those of you living in the industrial enclave, or those of us living in peri-urban or urban enclave, you will see that some industrial activities are going on, and one way or the other, there is some kind of emission of gases into the atmosphere. All these things end up polluting the atmosphere. For example, changing of timber log into lumber, gasoline from crude oil. When these processes are taking place, emission of gases into the atmosphere, is eminent, which end up polluting the environment. Thermal plants. Utilities such as electric and thermal power plants for generating electricity pollute the air. Let us look around and see our thermal plant. Thermal plant is simply machine generating power. In the process of generating the power, end up emitting some gases into the atmosphere, and that ends in polluting the environment. You may also talk of war and terrorist activities. Don't forget that in these activities, chemical bombs are exploded, and some of these are decayed, which end up polluting the air that we breathe. Automobile fumes. You walk around old cars, move around in traffic, and they emit fumes, and this is so dangerous. Carbon monoxide. These old cars emit carbon monoxide into the atmosphere, which pollutes the environment or the atmosphere. Effect of air pollution. One major effect is production of acid rains. When acid rains formed by poisonous gases increase the acidity of lakes, rivers, streams, and the soil, and lead to the death of living organisms. When these gases are emitted into the atmosphere, don't forget that rainfall, processes of rainfall occur in the atmosphere. When these gases are emitted into the atmosphere, they are likely to pollute these processes, and sometimes turn some of these rainfall into acid. When it falls, that's what we call acid rain. When they fall into vegetation or crops, they end up destroying it. When they fall into water bodies, they end up killing aquatic animals. When sometimes you are unfortunate and they fall on human beings, they end up causing skin cancers. We also have health problems. It can lead to respiratory and skin diseases. The polluted air may cause respiratory diseases such as pneumonia, bronchitis, tuberculosis, and skin cancers. It may also cause cataract on the eye. It may lead to climate change. Climate change right now is a serious problem that global leaders are seriously battling with. Now, the gaseous substances such as carbon dioxide may deplete the ozone layer, leading to hot temperatures of the Earth's surface. And that's what we call the climate change, the depletion of the ozone layer as a result of excessive emission of carbon dioxide, then the ultraviolet radiation gets into the atmosphere to warm, get into the surface of the earth to warm it, increasing the temperatures of the earth's surface. And that is seriously occurring as a result of air pollution, excessive emission of poisonous gases into the atmosphere. It may increase pest infestation. The greenhouse effect caused by the carbon dioxide may increase pests. Another effect of air pollution is the depletion of the ozone layer. It has been shown that propellants often used in spray cans, and chlorofluorocarbons used in refrigerator cooling systems give much concern because of their wide diffusion. Now, like I have explained earlier, when we excessively emit some gases such as carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it ends up depleting the ozone layer. The ozone layer is the shield that protects human beings and other living organisms from the excessive rays of the sun. As a result of excessive emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, gradually research has shown that the ozone layer is depleting. And because the ozone layer is depleting, the ultraviolet radiation gets into the surface of the earth through the atmosphere. And when it gets to the atmosphere, it introduces intense heat on the earth's surface. This intense heat increases the temperatures of the earth. And when these temperatures are increased, it affects all living organisms. And that is why even sometimes we get flooding, among several other things. Now, how can we solve this air pollution? Once again, intensive public education. I'll be very happy if one of you, as students, take upon yourself to decide to become environmental ambassador to educate people on air pollution. So intensive public education to sensitize the public on harmful effects of air pollution to reduce the quantity of poisonous gases produced. Another one is prosecution of offenders. All bush burners must be arraigned before the court and prosecuted. Offenders must be fined heavily or jailed or both to deter others from doing same. Strict ban on the importation of old automobiles. Now the government must ensure that outmoded automobiles that can cause harm to the environment are banned. Strengthening of state institutions such as Environmental Protection Agency to control the activities of man on the environment. This is very key. When you're able to do all these things, we'll be able to mitigate the effect of air pollution on our world. Then we can also ensure proper disposal of waste, and this will help reduce the air pollution. I would like us to quickly look at what we mean by noise pollution. It's one form of pollution. Noise. What is noise pollution? Noise is sound without value to the one who receives it. So right now, what I'm doing right now, it may be a noise to someone which has no interest in it. If it has no value to you, the thing becomes noise. But when it has value to you, then it is not noise. So at certain levels, it becomes a pollutant. When the noise goes beyond certain level, it becomes a pollutant. It is difficult to measure, but may be measured through the effect it has on the ears or as somebody perceives it. So if a noise is so hard in your ears, it can be classified as pollution. The unit for measuring noise is known as perceived noise decibel. Perceived noise decibel. Silence is 0 perceived noise decibel. At the point where you begin to feel pain at your eardrum, the level is 140 perceived noise decibel. I would like us to look at composition of the atmosphere. Since we are still within the atmosphere, looking at the atmospheric pollution, I would like us to look at the composition of the atmosphere. Now, the atmosphere is a thin layer of gaseous envelope that surrounds the earth. The gases, so wherever that you find yourself, you may look up, and when you look up like this, the things you see beyond you as clouds, these are accumulation of gases, and that gas that surround our earth is what we call the atmosphere, and this makes life possible. The main constituents of the atmosphere are nitrogen. Nitrogen takes about 78%, oxygen takes about 21%, argon 0.93%, carbon dioxide 0.03%, in that order. And these gases, in one way or the other, have their significance on human life. So they all have their importance. And so bear in mind that the atmosphere is a combination of these gases. The atmosphere contains, in addition, variable amount of water vapor and pollutant, mainly smoke and dust particles, and we call it aerosols. Say it, aerosols. The dust particles that we emit into the atmosphere, we call it aerosols, and it has its own importance. These aerosols, these dust particles that we emit into the atmosphere, sometimes help in the formation of rainfall, because when the processes happen in the atmosphere, the aerosols will help this formation, this water droplet, to become heavy for it to fall as rainfall, or as rains, if you like, as rains. Now, the atmosphere consists of well-marked layers whose boundaries are determined mainly by temperature changes. Bear in mind that the atmosphere has layers. The atmosphere that you see has layers, and it may be divided into 4 broad zones. When you read other books, they may talk of 5 or 6, but in our situation, we are looking at 4 layers. Now, the first layer, when you look up, the layer that you see is called troposphere. Say it, troposphere. Again, troposphere. This troposphere was invented by a German called Tesseract de Bont for the lower layers of the atmosphere. So the lower layer of the atmosphere, what you see when you raise your head, is called the troposphere. And the troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere. I am saying the troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere. It extends from the surface of the ground to about 7 to 8 kilometers over the poles and about 16 to 17 kilometers over the equator. So those of us who find ourselves at the equator, from the Earth's surface to the troposphere, or the troposphere extends from the Earth's surface about 16 to 17 kilometers, then it ends. Then those are the poles. Remember that those at the poles are closer to the atmosphere than those of us at the equator. Hope you understand that. I'm going to send you a video through our WhatsApp page for you to watch the video, and I think you understand afterwards. Now, the variation in the thickness of the troposphere is determined by the temperature. Bear in mind that in the troposphere, there is some kind of variation in temperature, and there is some kind of variation in the thickness of the troposphere, and this is determined by the temperature. Over the equator, where there is strong thermal heating, air continuously rises, which makes the troposphere locate at a much higher altitude or height. You see, those of us in the tropics, in the equator, because of high temperatures, anytime there is high temperature, you see the air will rise. And so because of high temperatures, the troposphere is quite farther away from us as compared to those at the polar, where the temperatures are relatively cooler. There, the troposphere is closer, and that's why we are saying when we are within the polars, when you say polar, those around the Scandinavian countries, Iceland, among other areas, are somehow closer to the polars. The polar itself, they are very close to the atmosphere. And those of us around the equator, somehow farther away from the troposphere. However, over the poles where there is cooling, that is negative 60 degrees Celsius, the air becomes heavy and sinks, so the troposphere comes down near the Earth's surface. In this layer, temperature is known to fall with increasing height at approximately 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet or 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 meters. That is what we call abnormal lapse rate. Say it, abnormal lapse rate. In the troposphere, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. I am saying in the troposphere, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. And we are saying that the temperature is known to fall with increasing height at approximately 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet. So in other words, when you travel in the troposphere every 1,000 feet, the temperature will fall by 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit or 6.5 degrees Celsius per every 1,000 meters that you travel in the troposphere. And that process or that term is called abnormal lapse rate. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. So we say there is an inverse relationship between altitude and temperature. There is an inverse relationship between altitude and temperature. So as you are going up in the troposphere, temperature will be falling. Hello? As you are going up in the troposphere, temperature will be falling. Now that the troposphere is the zone in which all the water vapor in the atmosphere is located. Hello? Bear in mind that all the weather elements are found in the troposphere. I repeat, all the weather elements such as temperature, rainfall, and other elements are found in the troposphere. I want you to understand that the troposphere is the first layer of the atmosphere. The first layer of the atmosphere is called troposphere. Now, there is a boundary that divides the troposphere and the next layer called the stratosphere. Now, that layer, the boundary that divides the troposphere and the stratosphere is called the tropopause. Say tropopause. The layer that divides the troposphere and the stratosphere, that is the next layer, is called tropopause. Say tropopause. And so the tropopause is the transitional zone. Now, the tropopause was coined by Sir Napar Shah to refer to the upper limit of the atmosphere, where the troposphere shares border with the stratosphere. It is a zone of uniform temperature. This is the region of cloud, rainfall, wind, sunshine, humidity, that is elements of weather. So bear in mind that, like I have said, all the elements of weather occur in the troposphere, and the tropopause is the boundary between the troposphere and the stratosphere, which is the next layer. So the first layer is the troposphere. The second layer is the stratosphere. The stratosphere is the layer above the troposphere, and it extends to the base of the mesosphere, and is about 50 kilometers from the ground. So from the ground to 50 kilometers, then in the atmosphere, then you are within the stratosphere. Throughout, it stretches up to 10 miles or 16 kilometers. So that layer, that stratosphere, extends up to 10 miles or 16 kilometers. Here, unlike the troposphere where we say temperature decreases with height, in the stratosphere, temperature increases with height or altitude. Hello? In the troposphere, as you are going up, temperature will be falling. But in the stratosphere, as you are going up, temperature will be going up. Why do you think it will be so? I want you to ponder and read around that. In the stratosphere, while you are going up, temperature will also be going up. Temperature will be increasing. So we say in the stratosphere, temperature increases with height. As in the troposphere, we say there is an inverse relationship between temperature and height. In the stratosphere, we say there is a direct relationship or positive relationship between temperature and height. This is due to the layer of gas called ozone layer. You see, the ozone layer is found in the stratosphere, and this ozone layer absorbs the heat from the ultraviolet radiation. So basically, because the heat is being absorbed in that zone, it will basically make that zone hotter. So as you're going up in the stratosphere, temperature will also go up. Bear in mind that the ozone layer is found in the stratosphere. Hello? I am repeating that the ozone layer is found in the stratosphere, which is the second layer. This ozone is identified or defined by its accumulation of ozone gases, and is about 20 to 30 miles or 48 kilometers above the ground level. Let's say you are on a plane, move from the surface. When you go 48 kilometers above, then you bear in mind that you are within the ozone layer. Like I've explained earlier, this ozone layer is a gas, and it absorbs some of the ultraviolet rays and acts as the Earth's main buffer zone against the devastating effect of the radiant energy on the biological environment. So this ozone layer protects us from the harmful effects of the ultraviolet radiation or the sun rays. The ozone layer is marked by a very high temperature as compared with belts around it, and the gas itself is in the form of oxygen with 3 atoms instead of 2, and is created when oxygen is split out by violent light in the upper part of the atmosphere. This layer protects human life from the harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Now, beyond the stratosphere lies the stratopause, a layer which is the transitional zone between the stratosphere and the mesosphere. Bear in mind that in each of the layers, when you are moving out of each of the layer, you enter a boundary, and that boundary mostly ends with pause. So don't forget, when we are moving from the troposphere to the stratosphere, the boundary that divides the troposphere and the stratosphere, we call that boundary the tropopause. In the same vein, when moving from the second layer, which is the stratosphere, to the third layer, which is the mesosphere, there is a boundary that divides the stratosphere and the mesosphere, and that boundary is called the stratopause. All of you, stratopause. Again, a stratopause. And it is a layer which is the transitional zone between the stratosphere and the mesosphere. Remember that planes, or it is within the stratosphere that jet planes or jet liners prefer to fly in order to get the weather, the stratosphere. So those of you who have had the experience of boarding a plane, you will see that the plane will go beyond these clouds that you see to another layer. And so when you're on a plane, you see these clouds that you see beneath the plane that you are on board. And so the stratosphere is where planes or pilots love to fly, because there the weather conditions are not there. There wouldn't be any rainfall or serious thunderstorm. And so they will have the comfort to fly. Since we need visible light to support the production of plant life, which forms the basis of our food chain, we cannot do without some amount of radiant energy though. However, activities are now threatening this atmosphere through excessive use of man-made chemical compounds known as CFCs. As CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons, are caused by human activities, most nations have taken measures to reduce their manufacture and use of coolants like the air conditioners, refrigerators, car spraying, fire extinguishers, manufacturing of mattresses, agrochemicals, gases from oil rigs and refineries, huge industries which have all been responsible in producing these chemical compounds. We all know that CFCs, they are very good, they are coolants, but gradually research shown that it depleted part of the ozone layer, causing intense heat. As a result, there has been an advance or advice, if you like, or even supporting it with some kind of legal enforcement to ban the use of CFCs. Now, this brings us to the end of our lecture for today. Thank you very much.